Hi friends! When I recorded this video, I recorded the whole process from detangling and what products I put in, but during the edit I realized that most of you just want to see how I got these braids. So we're jumping in halfway through. If you want to see how I got these two Dutch braids, keep on watching. Now I got you in as tight as possible. So I'm just gonna, I have my fine tooth comb and I'm gonna use the rat tail end to just make a part down the middle of her hair. You saw some of the parts in my earlier braids, they were so bad. Okay, so now we have a good part. And I'm just gonna pin up the other side so that I don't accidentally grab from that side. Okay, so this is the fun part. So the first thing that I do is I find where I want the braid to start, you know, so you can start over here, you can start right towards at the part. I like to start kind of in the middle because then I can grab from both sides and I kind of try to make them even down both sides. So I'm gonna grab a small part up in the front. And hopefully this camera angle is okay. So I take a really small section. Again, I just work my hands through it, make sure it's nice and smooth, and then I take that into 3 sections because that's how you always have 3 sections when you're braiding. So what I like to do first is just braid this, I don't know, 4 or 5 times because that starts the braid. And when you use when you use a small part like this, it makes the front part of the braid really defined. So I'm just gonna, when you do French braiding, you always go under. You always pull from under. So I have the 3 sections here, the right, middle, and left. And I'm gonna take my right hand, go under, and pull the far left through. So now the far left is the middle. So now I'm going to take my left hand, reach all the way under for the right, and pull that through. So now the right one is in the middle. And I'm just going to keep going under and pulling the farthest one. I like to make sure it's tight because that will keep the braid nice and tight to the scalp as we're going back. Okay, so I feel like that's a good start. So now what I'm going to do every time when I go under is I'm going to pull a small section of the braid or of her hair that's not in the braid. So I'm taking my right hand, which has this hair in it, I'm going to go over and I'm going to pull the left strand, but I'm going to take a small piece, so it's going to add and make it a little bit bigger. Okay, so now I have a little bit of that hair. I use my thumb and pointer finger to grab that, so I make sure that it's nice and there isn't a lot of other hair that comes with it. So now I have this piece. If that is too much hair, which is easy to do, I can take my thumb and I kind of take it down the middle and just separate out. So the reason that you would do that is because, like, if I'm doing 2 braids right now, so they can be really thick. If I do, I don't know, 6 braids in her hair, I want the section to be really, really small. So I want to take a really small amount of hair each time so that you don't run out of hair to grab from. So that's why you would make the section smaller. Okay, so now that piece that I just grabbed is in the middle. So now I'm taking my left hand, I'm going to reach under, grab this far strand and also a little bit of hair. And I'm just going to, and then pull up. And now I'm going to make sure that, see how this extra hair kind of came in? I'm taking that out. And so now that strand's in the middle. And you see the 3 strands, the one in the middle is the biggest. That's the one that I just pulled hair with. So they're gonna start to get, the sections are gonna get thicker and thicker. And again, I'm just pulling, making sure it's nice and tight. So now I'm gonna start from, take my right hand, reach under, grab a little bit of hair, and pull up. Now that was a lot of hair that came up, so I'm just gonna kind of section it out. And see how I grab the other strand with my pointer and middle finger? That's the sort of stuff that you'll get the feel for, because you want to keep all the strands separate, but it just takes a feel. And so there were so many times where I was like, I don't know which strand is which now, and you just have to start over and you just practice and get a feel for it. And so that's why you want to make sure that the hair is nice and detangled, because you're running your fingers through it, you know, you're pulling up on different sections, and so you want to make sure it's very maneuverable. Okay, so again, I'm going to take my left hand, reach under, grab the section and a small piece of hair, lift up, and pull tight. So now that strand is in the middle. And so I want it to kind of go down the middle of her, not the middle of her head, the middle of this section. And so I want to make sure that that's where the line is going. You can, depending on how you pull the hair, you can make it go on any part of her head. And so I kind of want it to go in the middle, so I just have to kind of make sure that that's where I'm pulling from. I'm taking out, because that was a big chunk that I pulled from. Especially because it is wet, you're gonna pull up big chunks because it's stuck together. So using those other fingers to just kind of separate out, making sure you're not grabbing too much hair is helpful. So the less you grab, the more braid you're going to get. So if you want like a lot of braid, which sounds kind of funny, then you'll want to grab smaller sections. If you're only doing 2 braids, or let's say you're only doing 1 braid, then you don't need that many like cross sections of braid, so you can grab bigger chunks. I cannot tell you not only how much practice I've done on braids, but the number of YouTube videos that I started and paused and like really analyzed, trying to figure out exactly what they were doing. I'm trying to remember who my first one was. I think it was Weather Anchor Mama. She's this woman, I think she lives in California, and she has 2 kids. And she was doing braids on her daughter's hair, and I would sit at my computer and just watch her fingers trying to figure out how she was doing what she did. And then I, thought I figured it out, and I tried it on Ron's hair, and some of it worked, sometimes it worked, and sometimes it didn't. But it's really just practicing and getting, it just becomes second nature until I just did that. Now I can't remember where I grabbed from. So now I'm getting towards the back. So again, I'm just going under, grabbing a little section of hair and that section that's in the braid, and pulling that through. What's really annoying is that sometimes, if I do 2 braids or even 4 braids or whatever, sometimes like one braid will be really, really good and another braid just won't be. And that's just, I think part of that is just curly hair and life. So I don't get too worked up about it. Okay, so now we've grabbed the last section. So now I'm just doing the same thing. I'm just going under and pulling through, under and pulling through, just not grabbing any more hair. And I have these little blue rubber bands that I'll fasten it with. Are there any dads out there that want to learn how to do their daughter's hair? Comment below if you're a dad and want to spend more time with your daughter and make her hair gorgeous, or impress your wife or girlfriend with your braiding skills. Also, go ahead and feel free, if you learned something from this or enjoyed it, give it a like, and if you want to keep following and learn more about curly hair, go ahead and subscribe down below. So I won't do too much talking through this part because it's the same as the other side, and we'll try to get through this quickly and see the final product. So I take a small section into threes and then braid it without pulling anything at first. And then I take the far hand, my right hand, go under and through and pull up. Sometimes it'll take you a second to figure out which strand you're working with, which one you just pulled from. Don't panic. You can always you can kind of undo some of it until you figured it out, or just, kind of follow the hair. But that literally happens to everybody, where you're like, where am I? What just happened? Like this one. And as I'm saying it, I did it. Okay. So even though I've braided hundreds of times, I still have moments where I just have to kind of start over a little bit because I got distracted talking to the camera. Sometimes she's moving around a lot. So you can see why I want it to be really detangled before I start this process. So now I've braided everything, so I'm just going under, 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 under. So here is our final product of our 2 Dutch braids. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. And if you want to see more videos like this, please feel free to subscribe. Bye!